you have leadership, and you have teaching, and you have training, and you have coaching, and you have managing. These are all elements of how you develop people. And it's all about right action, right time, regardless of what your role is in the business.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
What's up, Remarkables? Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
And I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
Hey, it is Friday morning. You know what that means? It means we're in the studio knocking out a couple of episodes of the Remarkable CEO Podcast with you, and we're psyched to be with you. I don't know what day of the week it is for you. Maybe it's Tuesday when these first broadcast, maybe you're on the treadmill, maybe you're on the assault bike with your headphones, maybe you're driving to the office, maybe you're sitting at the kitchen table, pen in hand, notes out. Man, that's my my image, Dr. Pete, when we do these, is that I'm hoping that they have us getting ready to rewind. What was that last sentence? When I write that down, I'm going to download that tool, right? So we appreciate you guys. It's an honor, really. It's a privilege to communicate with you on a regular basis. We just appreciate your fellowship. If you know somebody in your circle of friends, a circle of influence, other chiropractors that you know and you care about, please share this message with them. If you know that this is a message that they need to hear, this is a conversation they need to be in. That's why we do this. We want to help more people. So we just appreciate you and thank you in advance for doing that. You know, we appreciate when you refer people to this podcast because that's how we're going to impact humanity. That's how we're going to restore health is through you. So help us do that. So Dr. Pete, got to admit, we're coming in here 100 miles an hour today because we're in the throes of our quarterly board meetings. So just like we preach what we practice, we're practicing what we're preaching, right? So at the end of the day, it's the end of the quarter, right? So we're getting ready for an awesome Q2. Q1 was fantastic. Man, we saw so much growth. We're just so grateful for that. And our team is crushing it, right? So we've taken all the principles that we've used to create our awesome practices and now our awesome coaching business, and watching through our coaching business just upregulate all of these chiropractors and chiropractic businesses and practices around the world. Man, we're just teaching you guys what we're doing, right? So we will not be teaching you anything that we're not doing. So that is our commitment to you. So know that you can watch us. We try to be totally transparent about it. You should watch us do what we're teaching you guys to do, right? So right now we're in the throes of our 2-day board meeting, right? So that's right. You heard it right. 2 full days. And we are head down, bum up in the bunker. We've got our whole team, which is totally virtual all around the world. We're head down with our coach guiding us through this board meeting process, which honestly, Dr. Pete, it is a stretch, right? So it can be a bit of a boiler room at times. And last night was no exception, right? So it was awesome energy. Everybody's being super productive. When you surround yourself with A players who are aligned with your vision story, who buy into your vision story and share your core values, and they're A players only. Sound familiar? It's a safe place to have debate, right? It's a safe place to have discussions. Nobody's attached to being right. Everyone's attached to doing the right thing for the business because we know we're in the business of saving lives through you guys, right? So just a safe place for us to debate. Well, one thing was dropped by our coach, and he went on for a bit on this, and his narrative was around, 2 things that really rubbed me the wrong way. And as I said to you earlier, I was, my lip is sore from biting it last night, right? So just out of respect and just recognizing that I'm showing up as a learner always, right? So I'm always trying to learn, but it was tough for me last night to hear 2 things that were said, right? So one of them was around management, okay, and leadership, right? So one thing that was said was people don't want to be managed. They want to be coached, right? So it painted management really in a negative light, right? So, that was the first issue that I had. And then the second piece of it was that people don't want to be held accountable. In fact, you can't hold people accountable. So we're going to blow that up here today, right? So we're going to talk about that. I just wanted to set that table before we ate. Dr. Pete, you saw it on my face, and then you heard it in my voice, and you heard it in my retort after that was said, and I unpacked our position on that. And I think that's going to be an incredibly valuable conversation for all the leaders on this call today, because It's not a question of if people need to be managed or coached or led. It's all three, and it's the right action at the right time. Let's get after it.
So I want to unpack a couple of things and emphasize a few things as well. One is, we have an incredible team. And like you said, we have a team of 8 players, and it's awesome to gather together and to be able to be in an environment where we can have those types of moments. We learn together, we challenge each other. There's a bit of that boiler room moment that'll come up. It'll come up today for sure. It came up yesterday. That's actually a healthy culture. So I just want to make sure everybody hears that if you're if you have tension inside of your business, that's actually a good thing. Because when people actually care about their position, about their mind, their opinion on something, like that actually is what we desire. I want that. I want somebody who really cares. But again, as long as we're pursuing doing the right thing, it's not politicking and having to be right or winning. It's actually the pursuit of truth and doing the right thing. That's healthy culture, and that's an environment that we want to make sure we cultivate inside of our businesses. So if you're not having those experiences, then you have to look at the team that you've assembled and ask yourself, like, are these people fully engaged, fully aligned? And I'm not saying that we are always in agreement and that's how you know you're fully aligned. I'm saying, yes, we need to be in agreement. We need to agree, even if we don't fully, even if I would have chosen a different path, we can agree to disagree. We can agree because we're committed to doing the right thing. And that's what this was about. This is exactly what that is. So I'll say that, number one. Number two, we have a coach, and we have that coach help guide us. And this actually came out of a teaching that he did. And that's part of the bit of the model that we have as well, and how we roll out our quarterlies. And so we bake in a bunch of different elements to our quarterlies, which add tremendous value to the team. And we appreciate our coach and all that he does. And I'll say 70% of everything that was actually communicated was actually spot on. It was an incredible actually session, and we both agree with that. Our whole team, we got a lot out of it, just a tremendous amount. What we are unpacking today was something that was said that really came up against what we teach and the principles that we teach them, what we know to be true and what we believe to be right and what we have seen proven over and over again. And we feel like this is a bit of a cultural revolution that we're dealing with right now. But yet, even through the midst of that, there are truths that we have to anchor to and we have to hold fast to that actually help us to weather the storms of the changes of the culture. And as seasons change and as the culture shifts and as we navigate these challenging times, that we anchor to what is true and we anchor to what is right, what has been proven to be true. And it's not that we're dogmatic. It's not that we're rigid. It's that we're always in the pursuit of truth and doing the right thing. And so there was a quote. I just want to share this. There was a quote, and I think it was taken somewhat out of context. And I want to unpack it here during this time, because we're going to be talking about we're basically calling BS on two things: that people don't want to be managed, they want to be coached. We're calling BS on that. And then we're calling BS on you can't hold people accountable. That's what we're doing. We're calling BS episode. Okay.
That's right.
And the reason why is this has nothing to do with our coach. This has to do, if this is going on culturally in the culture in America and in Australia and all around the world, this is what's going on in the culture. We're going to call BS on it. That's what we're going to do right now. And so one of the quotes I think was taken out of context, complete context, was a Jim Collins quote, which we love. Jim Collins wrote lots of great books. One of them is Good to Great. He says, the moment you feel like you have to manage someone, you made a hiring mistake. And we don't agree with that. We don't actually believe that that's true. That's not actually true, that if you feel like you have to manage someone, you've made a mistake. You actually, it's part of the experience of being a part of a team, whether you're a context of a team of a family, context of a team of a little league baseball team, or context of a team of a chiropractic team, or context of a team of a corporate, 100 organization. The management is baked inside of all of those organization pods, and it's a best practice. Is what leads to success. Now, how you manage, the skill of that and leadership and all that goes into that, that's where that's where we want to differentiate here today. So Dr. Stephen, I appreciate our coach. I'm grateful for him. I'm grateful for our team. I'm grateful that we get to have conversations like this on this podcast to share with you, who is our listener, because this is really important leadership conversation to be in here today.
No, you're exactly right. And the cultural piece of this is, I think, the nuance that's sort of the undercurrent here, right? So, and that's the thing I want to make sure that we just create awareness around this, right? So it's just like, we're not going to misstep if as long as we have the awareness of what's going on culturally, right? And to differentiate, it's like, what do people want and what do people need? Those are two different things, right? So think about dealing with your patients. What do they want versus what do they need, right? So it's just like with your team, what do they want and what do they need? And it's great to recognize them both, right? So, and I don't want to tease this down so it becomes so myopic that it's TBU, true but useless. This is like really applicable, for our leadership teams to understand. This is like, what we're talking about is development. You're talking about developing people, okay? And development itself is critical. Like, that's not up for question. You have to, A players require that you develop them, right? So you have to be if you want to be an A player leader, you should be a lifelong learner, constantly being developed. You want A players in your team? Well, guess what? They need to be developed and they want to be developed. And if they feel like they're not being developed and growing with you, they're gone, right? They become a flight risk, right? So I think that that's probably a safe ground rule for us to lay here, Dr. Pete. We're assuming that everybody listening is an A player, and that you're surrounding yourself with A players, right? So it's the first turn out of the driveway. If you're tolerating B and C and D players on your team, then everything else after that turn out of the driveway doesn't matter, right? You can do everything right, but you're still not going to get where you're trying to go. So that's the first rule, right, of the law of the jungle here. So we're talking about having a team of A players here, right? So they want to be developed, and there's different levels and methodologies, actions that develop people, right? You have leadership, and you have teaching, and you have training, and you have coaching, and you have managing. These are all elements of how you develop people. And it's all about right action, right time, regardless of what your role is in the business, right? So there's not one leader in the business. There's a bunch of leaders on your team, and they're leading from their role, right? So it's like, there's not one manager in your business. Of course, you have a manager, but everybody's managing from their role, right? So what I want you to hear there is, it's like, you're leading a group of people. That's typically about casting a vision, right? That's based on a purpose and a mission and a vision story that is compelling, that compels the right people to get on your team, right? So that's like table stakes, right? As a leader, you're making sure everybody has total clarity around where we're going, right? So the manager is all about how we going to get there, right? So it's like those are complementing strengths in a team, right? There needs to be leadership, and there needs to be management there. Then you're going to be teaching, right? So there's a time when you have to be teaching your people, right? So you need to be teaching, whether it's your team or your patients, right? Then it's going to be training. Training implies role playing. If you're not role playing, you're still teaching, right? So you've got to go teaching, and then you role play what you just taught them on, so they build skills. And then there's coaching, which is feedback, right? So giving people feedback. It's more about asking than telling, right? It's developing people, unearthing people, right? So, and then there's managing, okay? And managing, the attributes of managing, it's really about accountability. It's all based on accountability, right? So we set up expectations and agreements, and we hold people accountable, right, to those. And that's what we're doing with managing. And my point is, Dr. Pete, is none of these are inherently wrong. All of them are critically necessary. And it's about the right action at the right time. You need to know, when is it a time to lead? When is it a time to be a manager, right? So leading is about the individual. Managing is about the team. Leading is about people. Managing is about process. Leading is about growth. Managing is about objective. Leading is about leveraging influence. Managing is about leveraging authority. Leading is leveraging inspiration. Managing is about leveraging accountability. Leading is about creating a plan. Managing is executing the plan. The leader sets the vision. The manager sets the goals. The leader has the conversation. Where are we going? Dr. Pete, the manager's job is to talk about how we're going to get there.
Yeah, it's such an important conversation to be in here today, because we talk about the 6 sides of the Rubik's Cube, right? We talk about vision, and we talk about leadership. We talk about systems. We talk about team. We talk about training. We talk about energy, right? We talk about the 6 sides of the Rubik's Cube, and those have been proven to be effective. Those, and they're in order, in that order, right? And so what you're talking about is, once you understand the vision, right? So you cast vision, that's leadership. You have to cast vision. So to lead well, you have to have a vision, right? So you have to have a purpose. You have to know why you're doing what you're doing. You have to have a destination where we're going to go. And And you have to have that to start. That's the first thing. So people come into an organization, they align themselves, right? A players only. So they share core values, right? Which is, this is how we behave. They buy into the vision story. They say, this is what this company or this organization is going to accomplish. This is where we're going. This is what success looks like. In order for us to get to that part, that place on the mountain, we need more help. We need specific help with this part of the journey, and we need these skill sets. Are you the right person to help us? Do you have the skill sets that are needed? But that's secondary to, this is where we're going, and this is how we get there. These are our core values, right? Those are the bouncer, right? So once you align there, that's the first thing. So that person who says, we're going to go to this next place, knows we're going to go to a higher level of performance. We are growing as a business. Therefore, growth and development. To go to that level, we have to be developed to go there. So by being an A player, you're putting yourself in an environment where you know that you're going to be challenged. You actually want to be challenged in the work. You want to be developed. You want that. And with the context of being held accountable to the specific outcome that you are being hired to do. Remember, we are holding people accountable to the outcome, right? So a leader knows this is what the outcome is that I'm accountable for ultimately. And so as a leader, as a leader within a department, I'm going to oversee this part of the domain, this domain of the business, this function of the business. I'm going to manage this part, and I'm going to work with my team, right? So I'm going to be teaching them and working with them. I'm going to get trained. I'm going to have to train up people that work with me and help them. I'll do some coaching as we go because I really want to get some good feedback. I need to be asking questions, find out what's going on, and get another perspective. Maybe that'll help us to refine things and make things even better, right? And then I'm going to follow through with the things I've asked you to do. I'm going to delegate to them and trust. We're going to verify. Let's check in. Let's have some regular check-ins.
100%.
If that doesn't sound like the model that we've been teaching, then I don't know where you've been. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. But if you've been listening for a while, this is what we do. And if you're in our program, you coach with us, that is the recipe for success, predictable levels of success. That's how you turn a job into a business, right? And that's how you do it. It's through that. That is it. That is the essence of what we're talking about. So Dr. Stephen, there are, like you said, there are elements of how you manage people. And, you broke down, those 6 different, elements. It's like these things all are components, and you're going to float in and out of all of those: teaching, training, coaching, managing, leading. Like you're going to flow through all those every day, right? Every week. And if you have an understanding that none of them is right or wrong, or they're all right at the right time and in the right way. So if you have a staff member who's needs more skill development, right? They need to have better, they needed more training, right? But maybe the reason why they're not getting it is because they need more teaching and more vision, because they don't see the vision. So maybe you have to go back and say, maybe you forgot why it's important to do this way. Oh, and when I understood the vision better, once that clicked, I now knew why I need to make that call, and why I need to say the script this way, and why I need to do it at this time of the day and week. Oh, now I see why. Oh, that makes sense. Now I can do it. Leadership, you cast vision, the teaching. Oh, I see it. Train. Okay, now I know how to do it. Now I go and I execute. And then I'm going to check in with you and see how you did. Right?
And
that's
manage
essentially what that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Dr. Pete, I want to take my virtual highlighter out right now, and I'm just going to highlight that whole paragraph, what you just said there, right? Because all of those roads lead to Rome, and Rome is accountability, right? Like every single part of what you just said is like the electricity that makes all of those parts move is accountability. Okay. At the end of the day, right? So we're going to teach you and hold you accountable to learning what we taught you, right? So we're going to delegate to you, and we're going to hold you accountable to the expectations around and agreements we made around those. We're going to have reporting systems so that we can have visibility, and we're going to have meeting rhythms so we can have accountability, right? So it's the accountability that actually achieves the traction that makes the machine lurch forward, right? So it's the whole essence of EOS and Gino Wickman's work and traction. It's accountability. That's the electricity that makes the piece work, the part work. And frankly, that's not necessarily it's not about popularity. It's about accountability, right? So very often in culture, we can get these things confused. Like, oh, well, I don't want to be held accountable. It's like, yeah, I get that. That wasn't my question. The question is, do I need to hold you accountable? Do I need to be held accountable to produce the best outcomes? Because if we're trying to change the trajectory of the health of humanity, if we are really, really trying to change the world, like people love, that's not a t-shirt, it's not a bumper sticker. You guys need to get on the other side of that, right? So the only way that's going to happen is when we do things that may not be popular. It may not be the things that we want. I'll be honest with you, Dr. B. I went up last night. It's a long day, right? I went upstairs last night and jumped in bed with my daughter Emma, who's 17, who loves to sit up in bed at night and read. It was the end of the day. She's reading The Great Gatsby right now, right? So I told her some fun stories about our Great Gatsby party. We used to have it in college, and she just wants to hear how the day went, because these meetings are famous in my house now, right? We've been doing this, right? We've been doing this 10 years, right? So 4 times a year, we have our quarterly pulse meetings and the board meetings, and everybody in my family knows what's going on, right? It's a 2-day full-on hunker in the bunker. And, she also knows our coach, and there's always lots of, fun stories that come out of these. She's like, how was your board meeting, Dad? And I'm laying in bed there. I was Surge. And she's like, did you get excited? Which is what my family calls it when I get my gander up, right? So it's like, and full transparency, I'm just grooming my Emma to be a CEO. That's since she was 3 years old, I figured out that I am grooming her to be a CEO. So we have these conversations, right? So I want her to understand and appreciate the value of a board meeting. What do we do? Why do we do it? How do we do it? So she could probably run a board meeting at this point. At the end of the day, she is hardwired to do this, right? So I was sharing with her, yes, I did get excited. And these are the things I got excited about. And I talked to her about this, and we talked about accountability. And we talked about the fact that, management may not be what people want, but exactly what they need. When management is appropriate, it's the right action at the right time. You got to manage processes that are delegated to people. I mean, I'm not trying to tease, split hairs here and say, yeah, see, people don't need to be managed. Processes need to be managed. Yes. And it's the people executing the process. And that's what needs to be managed, because the process can be perfect. The execution of the process can be imperfect if there's no management, no oversight, and no accountability. So I was talking about that. I was like, yeah, you know what? It has nothing to do with what's popular and what people want. It's a question of, what do people need? There's a difference. We have to respect and appreciate and be aware of what do people want. And we, as leaders, it's our responsibility to understand, what do people need? Okay. And accountability is just such a big part of that. And, management establishes the accountability, right? And her response was, yeah, Dad, it's like discipline. It's like with parenting and raising a home and raising children in a home and running a home. It's like, we have a community here, and we call it ground rules. So we have ground rules and there's discipline, right? So discipline's not popular, and we don't want discipline, but we need it, right? So for a community to be cohesive and function at a high level, discipline's not popular, but it's needed, right? So at the end of the day, Dr. Pete, I'd make the argument that, whether we're talking about leadership, leading and teaching, or training or coaching or managing, each and every element of development is a critical, vital, required nutrient of a remarkable practice.
Hello, remarkable CEOs. This is Dr. Eric DiMartino. I am a TRP coach, and I'm honored to be in studio today with Jonathan McAlees with Fortis. Fortis is one of our very generous, remarkable success partners. And we love our partners because we couldn't have the impact that we do through our doctors without them. And so I want to thank you for joining us today, Jonathan.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I feel like everyone in chiropractic has a chiropractic story. I'm not excluded from that. So my chiropractic story started long before I was born. In 1969, my dad was an immigrant to this country. He ended up enlisting in the Marine Corps because he thought he was going to get drafted for Vietnam. My dad was a little guy. He was 5'6", 112 pounds, soaking wet when he went into the Marine Corps. They bulked him up to 165. And my dad is doing hand-to-hand combat. He's up against a guy who's like 6 foot something, 220 pounds. And I don't know if you remember the American Gladiators, but they would fight with pugil sticks, and American Gladiators had the cushions on the end. It was wooden blocks in the Marine Corps. So my dad gets hit in the side of the head, flips upside down, lands on his head, passes out cold. They send him to the infirmary, wake him up. He goes back out. Over the next few weeks, his knees start to swell. So they think it's from running in combat boots and handball and that kind of stuff. And this was back then when they would do a surgery, because it got bad enough that they're like, let's check out his knee. Something's wrong. Must be coming from the knee, since that's where the swelling is, right? So they numb you from the waist down. My dad was awake for the surgery. The surgeon opened up his knee and said, there's nothing wrong with this guy's knee. Over the next few weeks, my dad goes from 165 pounds down to 86 pounds, full quadriplegic, no use of his hands or legs. Marine Corps medically discharges him, and they start sending him to all the best hospitals in the world. Marine Corps is paying for it. So they're sending him to hospital, doctor, and every solution is drug or surgery. My dad remembers lying in the hospital bed, looking up at the ceiling going, if I don't get out of here, they're going to kill me. So the Marine Corps medically discharges him. They basically tell him, you're a cripple. You're never going to walk again in your life. This is your life. So my dad goes home. His brother ends up rolling his car, gets kind of further into an accident. My dad has crazy stories, but a year goes by, and his mother, my grandmother, was seeing a chiropractor. She had Addison's disease, and she noticed when she got adjusted, she could take half of her medication, and it worked just as well as when she wasn't getting adjusted. So she eventually wears my dad down enough to come see this chiropractor, because my dad's like, the Marine Corps sent me to like university hospitals. What is this chiropractor in Michigan gonna know? Well, luckily the chiropractor my dad goes and sees is Dr. Ian Grassam. Dr. Ian Grassam takes an x-ray of my dad. His atlas is subluxating his spinal cord, but there's no structural damage. Dr. Ian looks at him and says, I can fix you. So my dad starts getting adjusted every day. After 6 weeks, he was able to ride a bike. Like 6 months later, he was walking with a cane. A year later, my dad was better, right? Like the true miracle of chiropractic. So my dad looks at Dr. Ian, says, how can I ever repay you? Dr. Ian says, go become a chiropractor. So my dad goes to St. Louis, goes to chiropractic college. He starts following around Dr. Ian Grassam, Dr. Jimmy Gregg, and Dr. John Hoffman. So kind of the three amigos, as they were called back then. So my dad, those were my dad's mentors. They start taking my dad to DE seminars, right? Like there weren't amazing programs like TRP back in the day, right? So it was DE or nothing. So my dad's going to DE, and Jimmy Gregg ends up introducing my dad to this woman who was working as a CA in her dad's office. That woman later becomes my mother. They end up getting married. So I say all that to say, come from 3 generations of chiropractors. So my brother's a chiropractor. My dad's a chiropractor. His brother's a chiropractor. My mom's sister's a chiropractor. Her husband's a chiropractor. My mom's dad is a chiropractor. His brother is a chiropractor and was a founding member of Life University. So chiropractors, we married into chiropractors within the family. That's just like my immediate nucleus of family of chiropractors. So I grew up in chiropractic, grew up in my dad's office. And then my brother came out, 15, 16 years ago, 17 years ago, maybe even now. And he was running a large clinic, seeing like 800 a week. He was doing about 120 a month in credit cards. And he approached us and he was like, hey, I'm having a problem in my office. On the 1st and 15th of the month, I have a staff member who's in the back office with a terminal, key entering transactions into a terminal to run all of our recurring payments. So back in those days, we tried the various software, Authorize.net, NMI. There were different gateways, as they call them. Gateway, just think of it as like an online terminal. Well, it was all square peg into a round hole. Chiropractors do not do anything normally, especially running credit card payments, right? So we decided at that point, we're going to build a software. So we ended up building a gateway, and we originally built it specifically for chiropractors. We launched it in my brother's office. We launched it with Genesis Chiropractic software. That was our first integrated partner that we had, and we launched our software out there. And what we really built it to do was we built it to solve problems that happen in a chiro office that are very unique to chiro, right? So, think of all the various, at first it was like, let's store cards on file. Let's make it easy to do that. Let's post the payment back to the patient ledger. Let's run recurring payments, make it flexible, and let's make it easy to edit those recurrings, right? Like those were kind of the big problems that we heard back in 2012 when we started this 12 years ago. So that's really where we started and how Fortis got started and kind of how this all came together within chiropractic.
Awesome. That's a great story. And I've known you in the past and I never knew that story. So first off, I'm in Michigan. I don't know if you realize that, but and so I knew of Ian Grasham. He actually passed before. I think he passed in the '90s before I got out of school. But I've worked very closely with Jimmy Gregg and John Hoffman. Actually, I work very close with Jimmy Gregg now on the Michigan Association of Chiropractors. They were my mentors. They were like the gods, DE, all that stuff. And I was very fortunate to literally live a half an hour from them. John Hoffman unfortunately passed away several years ago, but they were like the rock stars in chiropractic. So that's so cool that your dad has a connection and got to see Dr. Ian and changed his life, and it changed your entire family's life as a result of that, right? So it's amazing impact that has.
I got very lucky. I grew up with these. I used to call like Jimmy Gregg Uncle Jimmy, because he would come down to Florida in the winters a lot and spend time down there. And so I, grew up with his kids. His son is now a chiropractor. And so I just grew up around these giants and legends in chiropractic. And obviously I grew up in chiropractic, but that was just my life, right? I was just a kid who always got adjusted. I was getting supplementation. My dad delivered both my brother and I at home, right? So this was the world I grew up in. And then I grew up with these legends, and I just assumed most of this was normal, only later in life to figure out, oh, I had a very, very unique upbringing.
Sure, for sure. That's such a cool story, man. And what's great is we didn't become a chiropractor, but now you're serving the chiropractic profession, right? You're helping us help more people, which is what it's all about. So that's awesome, man. So tell us, obviously we know Fortis, like you said, handles that. And funny side story. So I've been in my practice for 20 years, and we're expanding, and we're blowing out the walls, and we're taking the next door space. And so I've been cleaning a bunch of stuff out that's probably been there forever. I found one of those credit card sliders from back when we opened the practice. I actually found one of those with some of those old carbon copy things. I was like, holy cow, I feel old. So it's amazing how technology has come a long way in 15, 20 years. So if I'm a chiropractor and looking to increase our improve my efficiency of what my merchant services can do, why would I want to choose Fortis? Like, tell me the benefits you bring me and how much time you save me as a chiropractor.
Yeah, so it's all about efficiency, right? I'm an entrepreneur. We built this. We know chiropractors are entrepreneurs, right? So we want to not only save you money, which is great, but time, right? Time is the one thing, no matter how much money you have, you can't buy back. And so everything is about saving time and saving clicks. So as I said, we kind of started with, let's store cards on file, run recurrings. And then it was first like, I need to be able to edit the recurring. So, okay, let's make that easy. From a drop down, you can change the card, you can move the payment date, you can skip a payment, defer a payment, right? Like all those things. But then we started adding more and more functionality, and all the feedback came from offices. So things like when a recurring declines, we send an email to the patient on your behalf. Hey, your payment in ABC Chiro was declined. Click here to make the payment online. Right from the phone, they click, make the payment. There's a checkbox at the bottom. Do you want to use this card for future recurring payments? When they check that box, we add the card on file, update the recurring for you, right? So now we don't have to deal with patient has to feel awkward. That feature actually came from my gym membership. I was going into my gym. It was like the 15th of the month. They pull me aside. They're like, hey, can we talk to you for a minute? And they're like, hey, your card declined. And I was like, oh yeah, fraud. Someone stole my Amex. I got a new one. And they're like, oh, no, it's fine. I was like, no, really, like, here's my Amex. You'll see the new number. Like and they're like, no, it's okay. And light bulb went off. I was like, this is how patients feel. This is terrible. We need to fix this. And that's actually how that feature came about, right? So I don't want patients not coming in for care because they're worried about like their actual payment decline because maybe they didn't have the funds and they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to see anyone. They don't want to talk to anyone about it, right? Especially the younger generation, right? The texting generation, they don't want to talk to someone or stop at the front. So we have that feature. You can set up multiple cards on file for a patient. You can nickname the cards. So you can label them HSA card. Maybe it's their care plan card. Maybe they have a products card, right? So you can label them, and it can be more personal when you're saying, hey, which card do you want me to use? And you have labels for them. You can share cards across family member accounts. So you add the card once and you can share it across family members. So you add it to the mom or dad's account, you can share it with the kid's account. So it's easy to run those transactions. You can split payments. So you can split one time or recurring payments. This feature took us years to figure out how to do because it's really, really complex. But you can run a single transaction for $400, but have it post to 4 different family member accounts or as many as you want. So patients often don't like seeing multiple transactions, right? So they want that one recurring coming out because it's easy for them. So you can run the one transaction, but it posts to multiple patient ledgers. Before, what you have to do, and on every other software, because I don't know another processor that does this, you run a single transaction, you go to the patient's ledger where it posted, you reverse the payment, and then you manually go post all the payments and break them up for each patient, right? Like, how much time does that waste? What happens when someone accidentally, fat fingers the wrong number and they put the wrong number in, now the ledger's incorrect, right? So there's just all these sorts of errors that can occur the minute human interaction gets involved in a transaction. So we really try to eliminate all of those different, scenarios where there can be just a simple error that no one meant to make, but it just happens.
So not only are you minimizing human error, but you're taking the human component out of it, right?
Yes.
It's like, when we want, like, we always tell our CEOs, you need to leverage yourselves, right? We need to leverage ourselves for either people, systems, or technology. In your case, it's technology. We're using technology to buy our time back and buy our CA's time back, right? So they can be spent on more valuable things. And like you said, your systems isn't going to make the mistakes that a human may make. So it's a win-win all around. And so I love that. So full disclosure, I use Fortis. I love you guys. And one of the features I love about it is like you said, it takes out that posting, right? And you have a high volume office. There's so many credit cards to post, and you guys integrate with different softwares. And so when that payment comes in, it goes right into their ledger. Nothing has to be posted. It's completely done. It saves the time. And so talk about your integration and some of the EHRs you guys integrate with.
So we integrate with most of the major EHRs. So, Genesis, ChiroTouch, Chiro HD, Platinum, Clinic Doctor. Like, I think there's 14, 16 softwares like that we integrate with today. So we integrate with a lot of the major ones. We make it really, really easy. Your payments post back, as you said, right? So there's another efficiency. And to your point, my dad taught me a really great lesson when I was young. So my brother's the chiropractor. He was the science, I was the math and tech person. So went our different ways, but both in chiropractic. But my dad took us screening one day. But first, we stopped by the office, and the interior of the office was getting repainted. So, later, my dad was always a handyman. His dad was a carpenter. We did everything around the house. Like, we were always doing it. We never hired anyone. But for this, my dad hired someone, and he was teaching us a lesson. And the lesson was, he paid the painter $600 to paint his office. But we went and got 3 new patients doing a screening. Right. And so while my dad could have put us all in the office and we could have all grabbed everything, laid everything out and painted the office ourselves, right? He's using his time and he was repurposing his time, just as you spoke about. So we do the same thing with the software, right? We're not trying to eliminate someone's job. As AI comes along and as we even, bring AI in and we want to automate all these features, we don't want to get rid of your staff. We just want to repurpose them to do things that technology will never be able to do, right? Technology is never going to be able to ask a patient, hey, how are you doing? How's your care going? Hey, do you have anyone else that you think might benefit from chiropractic? Hey, we know we helped with your kids' allergies, with this, with that. Do you know anyone else that we might be able to help? That human face-to-face, I don't care how good AI gets, we'll never be able to replicate, right? So that's how we look at it. Like, we also look at it, imagine if Dr. Ian was focused on, am I getting paid at the front? Are my payments getting collected? And he's not focused on my dad's adjustment. Like, I might not be here today. My dad's still alive today. He's 73, turning 74 this year. Like, my dad was supposed to be dead by the age of 30. So if Dr. Ian was distracted, focused on money, worried about collections coming in, payments coming in, is his staff good, staff turnover, right? And now, like, oh shoot, I got to teach the new staff person how to collect the payments, right? These are all the things that we want to eliminate from the office, right? You're going to have staff turnover. So when it happens, guess what? You want your payments still coming in and you don't want to have to worry about that. And that's really what we want to focus on, right? Making the office more efficient. I want you guys to get paid. You guys give away a lot of care. Chiropractors are some of the most generous, kind, loving people in the world. but you shouldn't give away care when you don't mean to give away care. And you should very purposefully give away care when you mean to, right? But we should make sure those payments are coming in so that you can give away care or give away those discounts when you find those people who really need and deserve it.
I love that. And one of the favorite things I love is that, we do care plans, been doing for years, where you have those monthly auto debits. And for a while there, we had to like store credit cards, on file, and we had to like hide them in a secure location. And every month we
Yeah.
had to process them all. But now you guys can store credit cards. It's totally encrypted and it's totally legal, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So we do everything. We're PCI level 2 compliant. So we go through the whole thing. We actually go through a big PCI audit every year. We do in chiropractic alone, we do over $1 billion a year in transaction volume. As a company, we do over like 25 billion a year. And most of that, over 75% of that, runs through the same technology. So you guys are using technology that is integrated with major companies that runs billions of dollars a year. So we go through all that compliance. But since I run chiropractic and our chiropractic channel, and I also essentially run products for our technical side, I dictate a lot of what happens. And so chiropractic gets the advantage of me kind of pushing the needle a little bit and putting my thumb on the scale. So it really benefits the chiropractic world, which is obviously a passion of mine. So
I love that we get access to what the big multi-million, 8-figure companies are doing. So that's
yeah.
awesome. So I know you guys are always innovating. What are some new things you guys are working on that we can expect to see in the future?
So I'll give you kind of 3 things that are newer. Some of them aren't so newer, but newer-ish. So pay links is one of them. So you can text or email links right to a patient. So you can send them a link, they can click the link and pay. It's great for a couple ways that offices have told us they're using it. One is like a back balance. Patient has a back balance, they haven't paid, it's nice, we put your logo on there, it looks more official, looks like an invoice, you send it to them. We had an office at a seminar walk up to us and was like, what's this? And they're showing us on their phone and we're like, oh, you sent a pay link to someone and they clicked it and paid. It was a Saturday, right? And they were like, oh my gosh, we've been chasing this patient for months to try to get this money. That's a good use of it. If you're doing screenings and someone's like, oh, the hands in on the pockets, I don't have my wallet, like no problem. I'll send you a pay link. You got to pay that before you come into the office for us to honor the promotion that we're running. Or if you're running online promos, things like that, you can run these just various different ways. Basically, any way you might need to text or email a link, you can do that. We also have a feature called hosted payment pages. It's been around for a while, but people don't know about it. So think of this as like payments on your website. You want to add a page for ClickFunnels, and you want to add like the payment page in that like sequence. You can do that with our hosted payment page. Both those features are free, included with your system today. There's no additional cost for those. We have Card Account Updater. Card Account Updater, what that does is it allows us to get new cards directly from the card brand. So let's say your patient has fraud on their card, they get issued a new card number. Their card expires, they get issued a new card because their card expires with the new expiration date. We can actually automatically pull the cards in directly from the card brands. So we can go out to the card brands and say, hey, is this card refreshed? And they'll kind of tell us yes or no. And if yes, we can grab that for you. So that's there's a small fee for that. I believe it's $1 per card that we charge. So nominal fee for us to go get that card for you and update it. You don't have to do anything. So that one's pretty cool. And then a feature we launched just like 2-3 months ago is our inventory platform. So we launched a full-fledged inventory management system. It was, we are a payments company, so we don't really do any other technology, but inventory correlates so closely to payments. And since we have all the patients' cards on file, we want to make it easy. So it's full inventory management. You can store your products and services in there. Barcode scanners work. Check patients out with their products. We track all of your inventory. It notifies you when your inventory is low. It's easy to go in and update your inventory. You can create all sorts of like notifications around your inventory specific to each product. So your D3, you're going to sell a lot faster maybe than like a pillow, right? Or your dental rolls, you might be selling faster than you sell another product. So you can store all those products in there and track them a lot easier. It's got a ton of features in there. You can store your services. It deals with all your taxes. You can take tip in there. And we're really adding a lot of cool features. So this is, I'll call it like phase 1 of this project. We put quite a bit of money into this. So it's a really, really cool, slick feature. We're launching our Android and iOS app for it. So you can actually like use the camera on the back of your phone to actually scan to take a barcode of a product. So you'll be able to use it at events, talks, things like that. It's really, really cool what we have planned for that. That's where I am really excited, as you can probably see from my face, because we're doing a lot of really cool things with this, and we have a big focus within the company on this product. And so we think it's going to be really cool. We're going to do some really cool stuff with it specifically for chiropractic. So we're kind of launching that out, rolling it out. The offices that are using it today love it. And it's just a really cool feature. And so we're just going to keep innovating on that, right? So when we first built the gateway, we got it into offices' hands and we're like, tell us what we can do. And we're doing the same thing with this. So we're getting that feedback from offices of like, okay, great. Tell us how to make this better. Tell us how to make it faster. Tell us what we can do to help you sell more inventory, right? And not that we're looking to sell products, but everyone is, nutrient deficient and people need their vitamins, their supplementation, right? We know it's not just chiropractic today, although the adjustment is the most important thing. We have all these other things, right? The equipment even, right? If you're selling rehab equipment in the office, all those kinds of things. So again, we just wanted to make it easier on the clinics to be able to keep track of their inventory, sell it. We hear all the time like, oh, I have a notebook. Oh, I have a spreadsheet. Like, oh, we're missing all kinds of products. Like we don't know where they went. We tried to create a solution for all of that.
Great. But you guys are obviously a lot more than just a merchant service company.
Yeah.
You guys do so much to help optimize and increase efficiency in practice function, and so that's why we appreciate you, and that's why we are happy to have you guys as success partners. So for our listeners, what's the next step for them to connect with you guys and learn more about how you can help them?
Yeah, so the easiest way to get a hold of us is just Chiro, CHIRO, at fortispayments.com, FORT as in Tom, IS as in Sam, payments.com. So just reach out to us there. I'm sure we'll have a link down below where you can kind of reach out. Just reach out to us. We're here. We're at every TRP seminar. So come up to the booth. Margaret's usually there. I'm there at some of them. Come say hi. Ask us questions. If there's anything we can do to help, if you're not a client of ours, at the end of the day, we're here to serve chiropractic, right? Like chiropractic comes first. We are second. So if you have questions, like we help offices all the time, like don't care if you're not a client. We just want to see chiropractic grow. We want to see it get to more people, help more people, serve more people. So we're here to help in any way that we can.
Appreciate it, Jonathan. Thank you so much for being with us today. Make sure you guys, if you're interested, reach out to them. Obviously, you can see they do so much to help your practice, and set up a time where you can discuss with them exactly what they can do to help you guys improve your practices. And thank you, Jonathan, for being here. Thank you so much for being a TRP Remarkable Success Partner. You guys are critical to help us help our docs help more people, and that's really what we're in the business of doing. And so, all you Remarkables out there, remember to tune in each week to the Remarkable CEO podcast. Everyone have a blessed day, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.